Hey, you tuned into the Daily, and my next guest. This is a first for me. I've never spoken to anybody who is currently in Portugal, but he has just dropped a brand new album called The Hero and the Villain. Dan Bremnes joins me. Welcome to the Daily, Dan. Hello.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Tell us about a little bit about Portugal. We were just having a quick chat behind the scenes about what you're doing there, but it's a bit of a significant season for your family.
Yeah, we're just taking a break, taking time to stop and pause, look inside of ourselves and take time as a family. We've been busy for the last, long time, as much as I can remember. Busyness is good, work is good, but also stopping and pausing and asking the big questions is good. So that's sort of what we're doing.
Now, it seems like asking the big questions really is something that kind of ties into the theme of this whole record. So let's just jump
Yeah.
straight into it. It's called The Hero and the Villain. Now, when I first heard about this album, you kind of rolled out a few of the EPs. There was 4 songs here, 4 songs there, and then now we've got the complete collection of work. I almost pictured the cartoons that you watch as a kid, where you've got the little good guy on one shoulder and then you got the bad guy on the other shoulder. You got the hero and the villain. They're coexisting, trying to pull you in different directions. Tell me how this concept played out for you personally and into this project.
Great question. Starting off strong. Really, it was just the journey I was on. And funny enough, it was the first song that I wrote on the album. And the way the song rolled out, like this phrase, the hero and the villain it just kind of came out of nowhere. And the next song we wrote was a song called Human. And we were just sort of like, to me, like when you're writing music, writing an album, it just feels like you're blindfolded, like playing pin the tail on the donkey. I don't know if you know that game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just didn't know what am I gonna do, and like it's just like all the stuff that was happening in my life, it just started just to bubble to the surface, and these songs started coming out, and it was actually a really painful process at first, like the most painful, but realizing that sometimes some days I'm like the hero in my life or in my family or in my friends or whatever, and some days I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm the villain, and what's going on. And so that's sort of like the foundation of where the whole thing started. And that was the question I was asking. And it was the journey I took. And the journey ended up becoming the most important journey of my life. And a lot of the songs on the album echo that. In and amidst that season, I felt like I lost my faith, and then I rediscovered it in the most powerful way, and just found my own soul. It's just been, I don't even have enough time to say how important it's been and how beautiful it's been.
Yeah, because you look at the line of that title track in the chorus where it says, I got a hero and a villain living inside of me. When were you first kind of aware that, hey, I am the hero of my story, but also I'm self-sabotaging this thing as well, and I'm starting to pull myself down? At what age or at what stage did you kind of first become aware that there were these two parts of you, as there are two parts of all of us?
Yeah, at about that time. And I do think that that's human and it's normal. And I think that sometimes we get to the stage where we realize that what you said, self-sabotage, it's just like this side of us that needs to be healed and loved and brought back home. One of the books I was reading towards the end of this record, actually, what was it called? Sage. And one of the lines that really struck me, it was like, as a boy, the work is to find the man and draw him out of the boy, right? Like that's the sort of journey of the boy. But then the man, or the sage, is to find the boy within the man and bring him home. And that's, to me, that kind of like is what this is all about. It's like the side of you that's fought and that's wrestled and that's tried to build and tried to prove himself and all this stuff. That person can easily become like, angry, and like they need to like lay down their weapons and they need to come home. And so I don't know. I just think it's very mysterious, and I think that each one of us comes to a point where we can just feel like, oh, I feel like someday it's like I'm actually hurting my own journey, my own self.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really positive thing. I think that's the invitation to like bring that wounded warrior back home and to become like fully restored as yourself.
How hard is it to be able to, when you recognize, okay, the villains at play here, to be able to almost switch sides, to bring the hero back into the story, it's almost like a sliding scale, isn't it? To be just go, okay, I'm heading too far down one way. I need to be able to switch things around in some way, whether that's something to do with my mindset, something to do with my behaviors, whatever it might be. How do you go about just reversing the trend when you realize, hey, the villain's kind of taken over here?
For me, it was like a surrender, like basically coming to the place where like I can't help myself anymore. I have, tried to, and I've fought so many battles. This is one I can't do on my own. And so like stage one was just being like, wow, God, I'm helpless, like I'm helpless because I am my own worst enemy. And the next stage of that actually was me actually reaching out to another human being to help me in that journey. That was later on, but I think that's really hard. It was really hard for me to just admit that I needed help. I grew
Mm.
up as a pastor's kid, and I spent a lot of my career as a Christian artist. And you're not supposed to be vulnerable. I mean, there's not really a rule, but you're supposed to have things together. So
Mm.
in my mind, asking for help was like a sign of weakness. But little did I know like how much I needed to do that. It was really, really hard. But I think that was the key for me, is realizing that I was sort of helpless.
Talk to me about, you kind of were speaking about this earlier, about that process of losing your faith, but then beautifully rediscovering it. I mean, as a Christian artist, as a pastor's kid, it can be a big call to be able to just go, look, you know what? I'm starting to have all these doubts. I've got all these questions, and then just processing all of that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy. A lot of it was private, to be honest, because I didn't know how to talk about it. And I think honestly, this might sound super churchy, but I think part of it was just like a spiritual battle. I think there's this battle going on for our lives for whatever reason. Your life, my life, all of our life is important. And it's important in this very moment. And it's so important that there's like this battle going on for our heart, our attention, our faith, and I was losing that battle. So I was like, my mind was so clouded. I was so deceived. And it seems so clear to me now, but I think that was a big part of it. And my wake up call was just that I was becoming so unhealthy. And I was like, this is not the version of me that I want to become. Something has to change.
And you've spoken about, throughout this whole process, as painful as it was, anxiety begins to come into the equation. Your mental health takes a little bit of a toll as well. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean that is the biggest part of it, where when you feel like you're losing yourself, then that, to me, that was the scariest part. I was like, I don't feel like I'm myself anymore. I don't feel like I have peace in my mind. And these days I've realized that like the greatest reward or the greatest thing you can have is peace.
Mm.
And it creeps up very slowly to realize that you can't find peace. So finding peace is such a huge thing. You can have, again, this is just such a basic verse that we find in the Bible. You could gain the whole world but lose your soul. You could have everything around you but not have peace, and none of it's worth it. So that's sort of the place that I came to. And again, you could diagnose it with a bunch of different things, but I really think for me it was a spiritual thing. And it came to me to that moment of just coming back to God and saying like, I need help. And that's when I experienced like a miracle, to be honest, where I started to get my life back.
Well, let's hop into some of the songs that really tell the story of this album. The title track is called Hero and the Villain. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we take a listen to this song that we haven't spoken about already?
I don't think so. I mean, the reason I wrote the song initially was because of the wrestle that I was having, but now I'm excited about it more than I am feeling that tension, and I want people to listen to it, not because I want them to be like, "Oh, this is a cool song," which I hope they think it's a cool song, but to know that like they can experience an incredible amount of breakthrough no matter how far they feel like they've gone.
I'll tell you too, I'm so glad that you put the acoustic version of this song at the end of the album too, because it just, I don't know, it hits different when I listen to it. I love the studio version, but I love almost a little bit the more raw vulnerability almost that you get in the acoustic version. It's really nicely done.
Well, thank you for listening all the way to the end.
Yeah.
I like it too. It's probably one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's weird because you can put all the work into the production, which
Yeah.
is great, and it has a place, but also a vocal and an acoustic. It was the last thing we recorded, and we did it in Sweden. It was very like, it felt right. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No. All right, Human. Talking about Human.
Yeah, this I think this was the second or the third song we wrote in that season, and I was just feeling the weight of being human. And a lot of my life, I didn't feel like I could be human. I felt like I had to be perfect, or I felt like I had to show different parts of myself to be accepted or loved. And I think I was just feeling the heaviness of that. And I had written down in my notes as I was like leading up to this trip, like the word human. And just one day we just started writing about it, and it just all unfolded. And it's a song about the intensity of being human. Like none of us asked to be here. And that's a really weird thing to think about. And none of us really has a playbook, you know, like your microwave comes with a instruction manual, your TV does, your computer does, but you don't. And you need, and you hunger, and you thirst, and you need sleep, and we all need like validation, and like there's so many things that are complicated about being human. And I was trying to put that into words because I think it's also a very beautiful thing where we get to experience the intensity of life like no other being ever has. So like there's these great invitations in being human, but it's complicated and it's quite a journey, but it's a beautiful one. So yeah, it's trying to hold both of those tensions at one time. And I still am trying to hold both those tensions.
Yeah. Let's talk about Find Yourself.
Yeah. This was this is one of my favorite songs, Find Yourself. And this is sort of, I think, at the very center of the heart of the album is this idea of like finding who you really are. And this was such a hard song to write. I almost walked out of the room a number of times. I just, everything in me wanted to run away from this idea of finding myself. And it's such a crazy thing that all happened, and how months or maybe even a year after I did actually have that experience where I like really landed in my own skin. But yeah, it probably sounds like I'm just babbling on, but I think what I'm trying to get at is I think this is life's big invitation. I think this is what God invites us into. There's a verse, I'm probably butchering it, but it says, it's the honor of God to hide a treasure, and it's the honor of kings to find it. Again, I think I butchered that. But it's this idea that God hides this treasure of who we are. And it's like the journey of life. What is the meaning of life? It's to find who the brightest parts of you, the true thing that you are, before all of that stuff kind of piled on top of who you were. All that shame, all that guilt, all that anxiety, that nervousness, that's actually not you. Those are just layers on top of who you are. And there's this bright thing under there that sometimes pops out, and it's the thing that all your friends and family love about you, you know? And it's usually the thing that we can't see in ourselves. And to me, that's the journey. That's like, when I wrote that song, I was like, this is the reason I'm here, is to write this song and to live this song out. And many of the songs I've written, it's taken me years to actually live them. They end up becoming their own little prophecy in a way, right? That you've kind of got to step into the thing that you're seeing. So yeah, that's a really important song for me. And I hope that when people listen to it, they can feel that and believe that that's possible, because I actually thought it was impossible.
Yeah. Secondary question on this song. You talked about walking out of the room, and was that kind of almost being scared that as you found your true self, that it was going to lean more towards the villain than necessarily the hero? Were you kind of afraid of, actually, this is who I really am?
No, but that's a great question. The feeling was just great discomfort, which I've ran from most of my life. But I've learned in the past few years to really sit as long as I can in discomfort, because once I can like break through some of that discomfort, it has something to offer me. But yeah, that song, I guess in a lot of the songs that I've written that have felt important later, I've had the same feeling.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but all I can really say is, when you're onto something, there's a whole lot of other things trying to pull you away from it. Like when you're onto the right thing, there's a whole lot of things that don't want you to do that. And I don't understand it. It's beyond me. But now I've started to, again, lean in when I feel uncomfortable and to understand, like, okay, something's going on here that's above my pay grade. I want to run, which means I've got to stay.
And I think that's a very natural human response, isn't it? To be able to go, oh, this is the hard thing. I'm going to choose the easy path. I'm going to choose comfort. I'm going to choose convenience, not necessarily wrestling with the difficulty.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Fly Away. This is such a fun song when it first comes through as you're listening to the album. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, thank you. I love this song too. This song I wrote about my wrestle with time and realizing how little of it that I have and how much I want to do. And I think we all struggle with that. What do I do here and now? And what do I do tomorrow? And how do I like decide what to do with my life? And so it actually started as a really slow song. It was like way slower. And then we sped
Huh.
it up and we messed with it. And like, we did a bunch of different things and we just kind of like played with it until we started having fun with it, and then it became this whole song that just it sounds really fun and really upbeat, but it kind of has a big question in it, you know, like what do I do with my time?
Yeah, that's fair. And then finally, the song that actually kicks off the record started with you.
Yeah, and this was probably the one of the biggest moments for me when I wrote this song. Someone from my record label was like, "Hey, I just feel like we need something that's more like Christian or worship." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't feel like I'm there at
Yeah,
all."
yeah.
And I talked to my wife that morning actually, and she's like, "Why don't you just write a worship song that you would write? Like, just be honest and write it." So we sat down that day, and it was like a spiritual experience. It was like a 12-hour day, and I wrote these words, and they just kind of came. It was one of those times where it just came out of nowhere, and I didn't even understand that I was writing the next chapter of my life, and I was writing myself back to God, basically.
Mm,
And it was an extremely powerful experience, and
yeah,
because of that, it's one of my favorite songs, probably my
yeah.
favorite song.
And was it positioned on the track list to be the first starting point of this whole album, this whole journey for that reason?
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to kind of like double down on that, and for me it was like this reminder of like no matter how far I strayed, no matter how far I ran, it's like all of this started back. It was like this beautiful thing between me
Mm,
and God. No matter how diluted or crazy it got, or how much of a prodigal I became, it's like it all started and it's going to all come back
mm.
right where it started.
So, reflecting on this whole process for you personally, the way that it played out, the pain, the joy, the ups and the downs of this whole experience of wrestling with these ideas and these thoughts, how do you look at it now? Do you look at it favorably? Do you look at it being like, "Ooh, that was tough," or how do you look at it now?
Yeah, both of those favorably, and it was tough. But yeah, definitely the most pivotal, most important journey I've taken, and I feel extremely lucky that I got to document it
Mm,
and then share it, and have an opportunity for other people to join in on that in whatever way they can. And to me, that's like it made me feel the most closest to what I was meant to do with music,
mm,
where like in my past it's always kind of my hope has always been like, hey, check this cool thing out I'm doing, I want you to like it. And this is more like I feel like I found this treasure and I want you to also find it with me. So it's just a different experience, and there's not much of an urgency for me to like want all the numbers per se, but just want the right people to find it, and like hopefully it hits people at the right time and it can draw them into their own journey, because it's such a powerful experience when you take that journey.
So we've had a whole number of the songs that have been out for a little while now with the Hero EP, the Villain EP, but as a collection of work, it's only really been out fully for about a week or so. Tell me about the
Yeah.
feedback that you've got of people finding these songs and then finding themselves in the journey as well.
Well, so far so good. I've again like the people that have reached out, and whether they're people I know or that I don't, what they've said has just been really cool. And you know, it's kind of a weird time to release music. The world is going through a lot of stuff right now. So I'm not really expecting like a wave of everybody just paying attention to this record, but for the ones who find it, it feels really meaningful, you know, whether it's a close friend or even just my family or a stranger. It's been really I don't know the right word, but like meaningful is the best word that comes to mind when you can tell when someone's like connecting with it, and that means a lot.
And I think it's a really important journey that every single one of us should, at some point in our lives, start to be able to go through. To be able to just look at, okay, this is the way I was raised. This is the values that I was taught as a kid, whatever that looks like. And then almost finding yourself through all of the external noise. stories through news, through social media, through relationships, to then go, okay, in the middle of all of that, who am I? Who am I as a person? I think it's really important that we all work our way through that. And for some of us, it just kind of happens naturally with age. For other, we find ourselves at a point of crisis, and then it's all of a sudden, who am I in the middle of all of this?
You said it. Yeah, I mean, I do. Again, I think it's the great invitation. And everything else is distraction, especially in this time that we're in. And I would say unprecedented more than any time. Like, man, we're being invited back to the center, to who we are. And like all of that stuff it's noise. It's going to come and go. And, I was so trapped in all of those distractions. And I'm so glad that I was able to kind of pull away from that enough to realize like, none of it actually really leads anywhere that's going to be good, clean drinking water.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Well, thank you for telling your story. As you said, for those that do find this album, for those that come across and really immerse themselves in the process of their own personal finding themselves journey and realizing that there is a hero and a villain in every single one of us. Thank you for being able to document what you've learned through this season. So thanks so much for joining us here in Australia. It's been so good to be able to connect with you, Dan Bremnes. The new album is called The Hero and the Villain, and we appreciate you joining us on The Daily, my friends.
Thank you.